and welcome to my kitchen in this short intermission between live events at the Serve It Forth Food History Festival. I'm going to be making a recipe today from my new book, Much Ado About Cooking, which explores the food references in Shakespeare's plays. The play that has inspired today's recipe is The Winter's Tale, or more specifically, Perdita. Now, Perdita is the daughter of Leontes and Hermione, but she's abandoned as a baby in Bohemia because Leontes is not convinced that the child is his. Perdita is brought up by a shepherd, completely unaware of her noble heritage, until, of course, a series of events unfolds and she is falling in love with a prince before she knows it and reunited with her parents, so all's well that ends well in the end, although that's an entirely different play. So the dish I'm going to cook for you today is called Perdita's toast, better known as French toast or pain perdu, or if you're like me, you'll probably call it eggy bread. The idea of dipping slices of leftover bread in beaten egg then frying them has been around for centuries. But the recipe I adapted for the cookbook comes from Gervase Markham's English Housewife, originally published in 1615, which he claims makes the best pan perdi, as he calls it. Now, this is a really quick and simple recipe to make for a satisfying brunch or breakfast. You're going to need 4 eggs. Now, I use medium by preference because it's better for hen welfare, but if you've only got large available, that will be absolutely fine. And I do deviate slightly from Markham's original recipe by adding 4 tablespoons of double cream. Unlike modern French toast recipes, Gervase Markham's version has quite a kick of spice in it. Today, I'm using half a teaspoon each of ground nutmeg and ground cinnamon, plus 1/4 teaspoon each of ground cloves and ground mace, which is one of my favourite spices. You can, of course, buy all of these online from Steenberg's, along with lots of other less well-known but equally delicious spices. You're going to need a shallow dish in which to prepare your custardy coating for the bread. So I've already broken my eggs in here, as you can see, along with the cream, and I'm going to add those spices. And, as Gervase Markham puts it, a good store of sugar, or 4 tablespoons of sieved icing sugar. And then I'm going to give this a jolly good whisk to make sure everything is combined. Now, of course, we're going to need some bread to dip in our custardy mixture, and Markham is very specific about the type of bread required for this recipe. He instructs his readers to use manchet. Manchet loaves were the highest quality bread, generally eaten by the sort of upper echelons of society. They were made from finely bolted white flour, although it probably contained a little more bran than we would expect to get today. Now, these loaves were much smaller, as you can see, than modern loaves, or indeed loaves of the period. And William Harrison, in his description of England, tells us that they were around 6 ounces each in weight, which is about 175 grams. Now, of course, you don't have to use manchet loaves, although there is a recipe in the book if you do have the book or you decide to buy it afterwards. But you can use any good quality white loaf. The only thing I would say, because manchet breads in some contemporary recipes are enriched with milk, butter and occasionally eggs, they're a much softer crumb and have a much softer crust. So if you're going to use something like a sourdough, for example, I would recommend cutting off the crusts before you dip and fry it. Now, the beauty of manchets is that they're nice and round, so what I like to do if I'm using this sort of bread is cut the top off and slice it into 3 to 4 rounds, roughly a centimetre or so. in depth. Now, of course, you could use, as an alternative, something like a brioche. But of course, that commercial brioche particularly is quite sweet. So you might want to reduce the sugar in the custardy mixture. And don't forget, you can use what's left over to make some breadcrumbs for uses in other recipes. When you're ready to cook Perdita's toast, you need to heat a tablespoon of oil in a large frying pan. I'm using my Prospector pan from Netherton's, which is absolutely perfect for this job. And what you're looking for, you don't want the oil too hot. You're looking for a gentle sizzle rather than sort of a searing heat. So you can test this with a little knob of bread, perhaps cut off from the leftover crust from the manchet or the other bread you're using. Once you're happy that that is the right temperature, pop your bread in the custard mixture, and then you can remove this bit here, we don't need that. And then flip it over. And while that's heating up, I'm going to add about 15 grams of butter, just to melt. Now that that's melted, we can add the custardy bread, which has been dipped in this spiced egg mixture. Just getting rid of some of the excess. And what you're looking for is for this to be a nice golden brown colour rather than sort of too pale. It's only going to take about a couple of minutes each side. So when it's had that time, flip it over and give it another couple of minutes just to brown the other side. And when it's done, you can drain it on some kitchen towel placed on top of a baking sheet and keep it in a low oven while you cook the rest of the toasts. To serve your toasts, simply sprinkle with sugar, as suggested by Gervais Markham. Or, if you're like me, you can also serve it with a nice fruit compote. So I've got some of that here. Fresh fruit's also good when it's in season. Today I'm using frozen berries. And there you have it, Perdita's toast ready to serve forth. And if you'd like the recipe, you can find it on the Serve It Forth website, along with all the other recipes that are going to be shown today. Enjoy!